welcome. Let's give a UNC welcome to our Deputy Political Leader, Jolene John.
Me blood crawl, things start to fall. Hold me head when I say I fall. Captain, the ship is sinking. Captain, the seas are rough. Oh yes, we gas tank almost empty. No electricity, we oil pressure reading low.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It appears as if she's taking us to church. Give her a round of applause, all that enthusiasm. Fellow members of the table, MPs, senators, councillors, NATEX colleagues, lady, Dr. Khan, ladies and gentlemen. On Saturday and Sunday, we conducted walkabouts in this San Juan Barataria area, and I must say, planning is good. Dr. Khan, this is a forerunner for the future. This crowd did not arrive here by guess. It came here because we planned and we mobilized, and we walked the streets of San Juan Barataria over Saturday and Sunday. I really quickly want to thank Senator Ramdeen, Senator and Deputy Political Leader I.A.N, David Lee, Big, Eliza Kur, a lot of the people from the constituency, Alderman Nazimur Mohammed, etc., and for all the welcome, the warm welcome, and the hard work in terms of getting this together. And the weekend, again, was spent a Sunday. Again, we were here, led by Dr. Lee. It tells that the UNC is back. UNC has the confidence to win. I saw it on the ground, as we call it. The fighting spirit, the pride was all on display as we walked through the streets of San Juan Barataria. The last 2.5 years have not been easy, not for you, me, or many citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. I don't think there is a street, a trace, a community that has not been touched by the government's deliberate vindictiveness, brutality, incompetence, and neglect. I live in St. Anne's. I've lived there for the last 20 years. Dr. Lee lives in St. Anne's. I think Dr. Khan also. And since I've been living in St. Anne's, we have had, to my mind, one protest. When the then Prime Minister Patrick Manning was building the residence and the dip center, and he wanted to include President grounds. The people of St. Anne's and Cascade, they protested by walking around the Queen's Park Savannah. And then they held a meeting at Queen's Hall. And then Prime Minister Manning left that field alone. Today I was reading on Loop News Caribbean that there was a big protest on Mount Hololo. I mean, I felt that was unheard of, basically, within that area, that Mount Hololo. And the resident, Brent McFarlane, said, he has lived there for 32 years. He said, we don't think we have been properly represented. And really, you can take out or substitute St. Anne's North, Port of Spain West, and you can put in any constituency in Trinidad and Tobago, and it is true for them. They have not been properly represented. Our representative up there, the MP, is one Mr. Stuart Young. And we have heard, I'm sure you probably have heard the way I have, that he has an obsession with 360-degree views. I am encouraging him tonight to make his way up Mount Hololo, because up there he'll have a 360-degree view of the neglect that is now St. Anne's. Everywhere you turn, people are losing jobs. And I think sometimes we need to be reminded, Dr. Khan called it patting ourselves on the back, but I think we need to be reminded that the rate of employment was about 4% when the People's Partnership was in government, which was effectively full employment. It meant that every man, woman, and child had a job. Do you believe that if Kamla Persad-Bissessar was the Prime Minister today, 200 of our young doctors would have been unemployed? Do you believe that? It would have never happened. It could not have happened. You know, the People's Partnership negotiated 130 of those, the contracts with the union. When they settled those negotiations, what it did, it ensured that people, their job, their employment, it was settled. They did not have to think and bother themselves for another 3 years. Their status was secure at least for 3 years. In health, the same thing happened in health, where we built again, the then Prime Minister, saw our citizens sitting on the corridors of the San Fernando Teaching Hospital. Sorry, of San Fernando Hospital. And what did she do? There was a building next door, an admin building. She then indicated or instructed the UDCOT at the time, I want that building in 18 months to be repurposed. And in 18 months, we had an additional 216 or so beds. All right? And that, of course, is our dear Dr. MP. He was the chairman at the time. Now, these things don't happen by guess. These things happen because somebody gets up and they work. W-O-R-K. Are these people who are there now working? No. They are doing a four-letter word. L-I-M-E, lime. F-E-T, fet. And let your imagination run wild with what they're doing. Because you know what? Every Monday morning you're reading in papers that somebody's wife put them out. So they're moving out the good working old thing. And I don't know if it's upgraded. Every Monday morning. I've never seen that. You understand? These people have no obsession with work. It is the reason they could not have achieved what the People's Partnership achieved. Because it takes W-O-R-K work. No kind of 360-degree view, you know, no kind of turnaround can give you that result. You have to go to work and work. So these guys who like to do four-letter stuff like lime, etc., they are achieving nothing. And what have they set out to do? They have decided we are going to lie, we are going to scandalize, we are going to criticize everything the UNC would have done, because you know what? We have no intention of working. So as Dr. Khan said, this country is doomed because they are just going to lie. They want you to feel badly about your achievements. They want you to feel that you have achieved nothing. Or if you had achieved it, it's because you had an ulterior motive. You wanted to do something wrong, that is why you're working so hard. You wanted to create an opportunity to do something wrong. So they are telling you, forget the work that they have done. You know why? Because they intend to do no work. Along this very corridor, the People's Partnership refurbished 9,714 apartment units. Kamla Prasad Bissessa did not lead a government for Indian people, for UNC people, for COP people. She led a government for all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. All of the people. Everybody benefited from that government led by Kamla Prasad Bissessa. And within those HTC, particularly the tenanted communities, we refurbished, we include painting, roof repairs, roof replacement, pigeon proofing. And what we did, the HTC at the time partnered with people from the community. So what it meant, people in the community were getting work. I have seen some people from HTC community here. They were getting work. So how did the PNM lie about that? They said no bother with those UNC people. They were using work to suppress gangs. I mean, come on. I mean, that song, even to the weirdest mind, that sounds like foolishness. It meant that when there's work in the community, a man could get up and feel proud to look at his wife in the face, to look at his children, because he's going to work. I am telling you, some of the best work that we have had was from people within those communities. They work hard, and they work well, and they work with pride. When they speak, or when they complained, we didn't run away. We didn't look at them and say, hush up. The way Tobago Marie Antoinette telling the business people, or they're fake business people, but we'll come to her just now. I hope I have the time to get to that. What we did, we went into those communities after 7 in the evening, after we have worked, and we spoke to the community. And we decided this is what we are going to do. So it meant you never had the kind of protests that you are getting now. These things are unheard of. These kind of violent protests where young people are out there in the road with nothing to do, no hope. And then the PNM is saying, What we need is the anti-gang legislation, because those who protesting belong to the gang. But if they have something to do, I mean, when we were working with them, Upper Duncan Street couldn't go to Lower Duncan Street. That was alien to my knowledge. I couldn't think about that. How can you not go to the same street? However, when we were working and we were walking, people will reach out to me and say, "Mother." They called me mother. You know why? They knew that we were coming to listen to them and trying to find a solution to their problem. They were, we were coming to find a solution to their problems. So we, again, as I was saying, we were criticized for doing good work within those communities. Thank you. Within those communities. We brought pride, because when the place was clean and organized, people felt proud to live within the community. Do you know what the political leader had asked us to do at the HEC? She said, design a program whereby people living in the HEC rental accommodation for over 30 years, they can purchase those units for $100. You know, $100. Now, why did she do that? Because of her values. She understands what it meant for someone to own a house. Because when you own a home, sometimes you can use that house as leverage to educate somebody. If you're sick, you renovate it. You can add a room and rent it out. It is your stability. It is your security. It is your stake in the country. And then Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar said the people on Duncan Street, on George Street, on Queen Street, in Maloney, in Pleasantville, are any of those UNC constituency? No. And she was a leader for everybody. She said, give them those units. I am talking, when she told me that, when I got it, I said, but Prime Minister giving away tongue. She said, it's okay. She said, let them have a stake in the country. That was the leader that we have. And that was the leader that we repudiated. When she said every child must have a laptop when they're 11 years old, is to ensure that they were part of this information highway and to secure the competitive advantage. How could a man look at a child and so callously take away a laptop? What kind of backward person is this that felt proud that you take away a laptop from a child? I mean, this is madness. You understand? So, with crime and security, what did we do? I mean, besides all of the other initiatives, in terms of infrastructure and the necessary materials to work, there were 500 new vehicles which were procured. 8 police stations were built and handed over, starting in Arima, in Piarco, in Maloney, brand new police stations. We left 3 well on their way in terms of to achieve substantial completion. These are just a few of the highlights, because we have a long list of the People's Partnership achievements. Now, where we went wrong with these people, because we left a good roadmap. And you can't tell me you hate people so much. You feel... The leader is coming. Okay, let us all welcome the honorable political leader, Ms. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, please. Can we stand and welcome her? Thank you very much. So, so when we talk about the achievements of the People's Partnership from 2010 to 2015, it's not about patting ourselves on the back. It's about reminding people that it can be done. It was done, and it can be done again. And I feel confident with the work that the UNC will be back in office whenever that election is called. Now, one other matter I want to raise. Yesterday in the newspapers, I saw a Tobago minister. The heading was, I think, "Stop Bad Mouthing Tobago." Now, every time you raise an issue with the government, this is not a government who likes dissent or criticism. They are the only ones who could say whatever they want about people. So whenever you raise an issue, I mean, you have no way of getting to Tobago. As I said, at some point I was being interviewed, Tobago should be named Gilligan Island. And whenever they bring their wonderful boat that is coming from God knows where, I want them to bring it and test it on the roads of Cascade, because once they test it there and it gets through there, I'm sure it will get through the Bocas. People are complaining. People are not complaining because they don't like the government, maybe that too. But people are complaining because they are losing their lives. In Tobago, besides the government, you only have little mom and pop establishments. So people don't have deep pockets. They don't have a lot of money saved to sustain a business when it is your income falls by 50%. It has been a very steep drop. In 2005, you had about 78,000 people, arrivals in Tobago. In 2017, I think it was 16,000. 16,000. There is no market when it comes to international arrivals. Nobody comes anymore. And the Trinidadians, our local domestic tourism, nobody goes because you're not sure if you will get there, and if you get there, don't know if you will come back. And Madam feels that you shouldn't complain. So she proceeded to call the people who are complaining so-called business people, and that she's from Tobago. Now I'm also from Tobago. So when she was about to attack me, let her know I am Tobagonian also. So she said she went into the supermarket in Tobago, and they had eggs and cheese and yogurt and almond milk. You see how stew she get? They have yogurt and almond milk. So our local Marie Antoinette don't care whether they have saltfish and ibis flour and golden ray butter and Irish potato. She cares that they have yogurt and almond milk, because she's in her ivory tower down in the West now, enjoying life and going by massy stores, right? Nobody cares. So that is what we are facing as a country. We know what it is. And I'm saying, based on what we saw this weekend and we saw before, our people are coming together, Dr. Khan. They are coming together. Everybody's coming together, and I agree with you. You need a united front, but I think the UNC is united. Because even those who are outside are looking to come in. It's only a matter of time. They know and they understand that this UNC is going to roll all over the PNM, because we are not afraid of them. We are not afraid of the People's National Movement. They could be as red as they want. We are going to win the next election, and by God's grace. So all we have to do is to continue to work, continue to remind people, because everywhere you turn, in PNM constituency, everybody's complaining. They're all complaining. Everybody's depressed. Who else say they're embarrassed? Who else say they're ashamed? Who else say they're fed up? But they are not leaving. They are here. And I know that as we continue to remind them that the UNC has done great work. We work, WRK. We get up in the morning and we work in the interest of the people. So let us leave the limers to lime and leave the fetters to fet. And every Monday morning, open your papers and you see who have a disclaimer. I do, it's my private business between me and my wife. You understand? We will act in the people's interest. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Let's hear it one more time for the Jolene John. Powerhouse! Powerhouse! Just pause very quickly to recognize some others in the audience. The Honorable Fazal Karim, MP for Chaguanas East. Could you give him a round of applause, please? Senator the Honorable Khadija Amin. Honorable Barry Padarat, MP for Princeton. And whatever mode they want to call him, they can't touch him at all. He will wet them right through. Senator the Honorable Tahaka Obika. Dr. Catherine Ali, former Women's Affairs Officer. I saw her somewhere in the back. Oh, here you are. Dr. Vidya Gopi Singh, MP. Senator the Honorable Gerald Ramdeen. And Ramona Ramdial, MP for Chaguanas West. East. Not, sorry. Too many names are writing on here, sir. I'm trying to pick up in the audience here. But forgive me for whatever error, and for those who have forgotten, we recognize you. You are here. Always remember, I am UNC and I am proud. Are you UNC and are you proud? It is my pleasure to introduce the next person who is going to do the major introduction. She's the daughter of Indira Prasad and Surendra Padarat, better known as Hemant. She was born and raised in Barataria, a past student of St. Augustine Girls High School, former secretary of the National Affairs Committee of the University of St. Augustine Guild of Students, a UE graduate with a degree in psychology and minor in politics. It is my honor and my privilege to introduce a young, dynamic lady from this constituency. Let us bring on Manisha Padarat to do the introduction.
Once upon a time there was a magic island full of
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I am humbled to have been given the honor of introducing our main speaker for tonight. She entered the political arena in 1987 and proceeded to become a member of parliament in 1995. She served as Attorney General, Minister of Legal Affairs, and Minister of Education between 1995 and 2001. She made history, becoming the first female to be appointed leader of the opposition. She again made history in 2010 when she became the first female to hold office of the Prime Minister. Her tenacity to do what is right for this country and its citizens only continues to grow. Her contribution to the development of this nation has been monumental and unparalleled. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the podium the woman who will further make history by becoming Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago for a second time.
Once upon a time there was a magic island.
The Honorable Mrs.
Very much. Thank you. I love you too. Thank you. UNC family, how are you you feeling tonight? All the distinguished members are here, brothers and sisters of our great family. I feel energized. I'm ready to take Rowley out of your face. As we start this new year, we begin with a bang. I could not believe what I was watching and what I was hearing the last time the Prime Minister of this country held a public meeting in La Joqueta, Talparo. This government, starting with their leader, has engaged in abusing every single person in this country. And on that night, he talked about persons who belong to his party. Let me show you on a video. Do we have the screen? I want you all to put up this video of Prime Minister Rowley talking about his own members of his party and abusing and dissing them.
Midterm half year, and the pontificators, some of them love to put on
Because them
PNM,
pontificators.
PNM, and of course they're licking up stuff left, right, and center for a dollar.
I mean, I never had any bad words with the Prime Minister. We never had what you call it, any kind of falling out. But I'm prepared to call a spade a spade.
And since we come into office, we didn't diversify the economy.
What is the nominal GDP estimated at this stage? 145 million. So in real terms, we have moved backwards.
And we were in the opposition, and we should have known that we were coming into government, and we should have had a plan, and therefore we come into government without a plan. Just drink your rum and get on my face.
I thought that he should be given an award for acting.
So here, persons who express their concern about our country, including PNM persons, Mr. Mariner Brown. He has been forefront on the collapse of the economy under the Keith Rowley administration. What does Rowley tell him? Get out my face. Tonight we tell Rowley, get out of the face of Trinidad and Tobago. Get out. Get out. And that is only one example. It will take too long to show the verbal abuse of the Prime Minister of this country. He talked about persons who have expressed concerns about the highway being constructed through the forest, through the Aripo Savannah. And what does he talk about? He talks about persons whose fathers were selling cloth, and about his mother and grandmother buying enough cloth from those people. In other words, get out my face and shut out your mouth. He's talking about fishermen and friends of the sea. These are persons who are expressing their concern, who have gone to court. Amongst us, he comes to Parliament, they come to Parliament, they abuse us for taking genuine matters before a court of law. But the court is the only place to go when you have a runaway, galloping dictatorship by the present government. Other than that, there will be war in the streets. But democracy is a civilized form of war, and the court remains the arbiter, the judge of rights and wrongs. And so to Dr. Rowley, you have abused women in this country. You know it. Every time he speaks, he just can't help himself. He has abused the children of this country. And then we see him. You know, I had an old auntie, my mousie. She used to like to wear these flowered blouse. They used to call them bodice. You know what a bodice is? Yeah, floral, bright colored bodice. And this is the Prime Minister who took away laptops from children. And he goes and he sits down in a place in this floral bodice, trying, saying he was reading with children. When he took the laptop away, I know his Minister of Education is saying, the book bags are 30 to 40, whatever pounds more than the body weight of the child, and the standard is supposed to be 10 to 15 pounds. Listen, we had said that we will take that burden out of the book bags. We will educate our children by putting the laptops in the book bag. And we had already begun through Dr. Tim Gopi Singh. The E-Committee had already identified, I think, maths and language arts, the e-books for the computers. So they have really, like their leader, going backwards, retrograde to the flowered bodice. They're taking the entire country retrograde and backward. Every single thing in this country is being destroyed. We're witnessing the collapse of the economy. We're witnessing the collapse of law and order. We're witnessing in every regard, in terms of jobs, quality of life, everything is being destroyed before our very eyes. And whilst the bodice-clothed Prime Minister goes to a garden where children are planting, what are they planning to do right here along the corridor with the nurseries in St. Augustine? And we'll speak a bit more about that. We must fight them every time they take away our rights. We must fight them in the streets. We must fight them in the courtroom. We must fight them in the parliament. We must fight them in the east, in the west, in the north, and in the south. But to mount that fight, as Dr. Khan said, we have to be united. We only win when we are united. We only win. And so tonight, my call to arms, as we begin this journey to victory, as we begin this journey to remove the PNM, the wicked PNM, is that we must unite. We must unite. I used to say before 2010 that if we take one finger to try to push down a mighty weight, can't do it. You take two, still too weak, but when you take all forces united together, we will be able to move any obstacle in our pathway. So my friends, look at our nation today. I ask you, do you feel safer today than you did in 2015? I ask you today, do you have a job? How many have lost their jobs? How many jobs have been created in the last 2.5 years? I want you to remember, as we speak of jobs, that when we were in government, we created over 55,000 new jobs. I want you to remember, we brought serious crimes down by the lowest in 31 years. Jillian spoke about the jobs, of the programs that we had put in place in order to create jobs for the jobless, to create homes for the homeless. And I want to repeat the promise I made and the program we started, that for all those who are now trying to get, where they are now trying to evict out of the HTC homes, we will protect you and we will take care of you. Every single day, people come to me and come to the other MPs, they are crying. They've got a letter that they're coming to evict them and throw them out of their homes. Jill and John, Rudy Murilal, myself and other members of our cabinet, we had a plan, we had a program. We understood what it was like not to have a home. And the amount of people come in, all the MPs, they will tell you, crying, look, I'm coming here, I'm getting a message, lady in Point 14 again, home, no home, their home burnt down. And no help from this wicked government. This government has not a care for those most in need. And so I want to repeat that promise, that we will give land to the landless. We will build homes for the homeless. And for those in the HTC estates, Jolene mentioned it tonight, I had planned and we had programmed with the Minister of Housing, Murilal, Jolene Chan and others, our plan was to give them the homes for what they call a peppercorn of $100. You know why? When I was growing up, I didn't have a home. When I was growing up, I remember parents moving from house to house, building post by post, shacks to live in. You see me today, and you say, I'm not thief all the money. The biggest thief is the one who calling everybody else thief. And tonight, I call upon the Prime Minister, if you have evidence of these wrongdoings you've been talking about since 2002. You know, these are not new allegations. They did the same thing before, and they've continued it throughout, and some people get fooled all the time. But let not yourself be fooled every time. And so, talking about thieving, talking on the platform again in that disgusting performance at La Hoquette at El Paro the other night, about who will get locked up, and who thief what money, and who take which bribe. Prime Minister, I want you to tell me whether you know which high government official received money full in a suitcase. I want you to follow that money. That is the money you should be following. And I could tell you where they got it to. So come and speak with us. But you don't want to talk to us? We asked you to talk to us on the anti-gang bill. We came back to you after it failed, and you were ranting and raving and blame Kamala and blame the opposition, blame everyone. I wrote to you at the start of this year, Prime Minister, please let us meet. You're a man so don't want to talk to me. I don't know why. I could give him some good advice. He did not even reply to my letter. Guess what? He passed the letter to somebody else. Who was it, Faris? Stuart Young. So Stuart Young replies on behalf of the Prime Minister. Okay, some of my members were upset and told me, don't bother with that. I said, no, this is very important. So we responded and we went along, and then we set up a committee. Prime Minister still will not come to a meeting. So he sends a team, I sent a team. They met. They discussed certain things, and they went away and rant and rave again. You know, whilst we are in discussions, he went out there, Faris went out there and started to complain and blame Munilal. I don't know how you always get in blame, boy. Blame Munilal. Whatever happened, happened. Okay, so they had the discussions. They still did not get back to us on what the discussions, what their understanding was, and what their plan of action would be, because they were to get back to the Prime Minister on discussions held and proposals made. Okay. Then finally, when we ranted and raved. I think Gerald went on TV and ranted and raved, and a few others. And when I say ranting, put the facts on the table. Put the facts on the table. And then the AG wrote and said, this is the draft bill. This is what we are going to bring to you. They made all the changes we had asked for. The only thing that is stuck on, which is still the sticking point, was what is known as the sunset clause. Now, why is that sunset clause so important? It is important because you cannot give this kind of power to the law enforcement officers for a great length of time. We were saying come back in 2 years so the Parliament can scrutinize what has happened. If it worked, fine, we renew it. If it doesn't work, it is not renewed. Take 2 years. They had asked for 5 years. We had suggested 18 months. We came down, we said, okay, 2 years. Yes? I want you to understand. Fuad spoke a little about it, but if you get a chance, look at a clip on CNC3. The host of the morning program on TV6, Fazir. And Fazir was talking about what happened right next door to his home. When they came, break down the door, bullets going on. Fazir says he comes out, he's looking out his window, he's seen all this police, all this activity. At the end of it, I really want you to watch from Fazir's own mouth. At the end of it, you know what? They had made a mistake. It was the wrong house. Fazir is telling us this. It was the wrong house. So whilst we know that law enforcement will do their best, we also have to guard against abuses of power from law enforcement. There are many, many good policemen, we know that. But there are also those who are not good policemen. They're corrupt ones. And so the law, in putting the scrutiny of the Parliament in a 2-year time frame, is to give the Parliament and therefore the country scrutiny and monitoring and checks and balances, that the powers, the draconian powers being given under this anti-gang bill, that they would not be abused. And if they are, if they're not successful, get rid of it. What is unreasonable about that? Why is the government afraid to stand up to police scrutiny? If they said this law is so important, and quite honestly, with my respectful view, it is not, but they are hanging their hats onto that one cure-all for crime, this bill. If they're so convinced that this will be so great and will solve the crime, well, take the 2 years. What is wrong? Why are you afraid of coming back in 2 years' time to face the scrutiny of the country and of the parliament? Well, you know what? Let's end this here now. I call upon the government. Let us get this bill back. And remember, they had said they couldn't bring it back. They had to wait till the next session of the parliament in September. I drew it to their attention. The standing orders allow. Should we come to agreement, and we are willing to agree, you can bring it back anytime, now, tomorrow, the day after, you can bring it back. And tonight I give you the commitment, together with your other amendments that you accepted from us. I ask you now, let us cut this sunset clause in half. We said 18 months, you said 5 years. Let's take half of it, 2.5 years. Let us come back to the parliament in 2.5 years. Fair is fair? Is that reasonable? Given the runaway crime, let's cut it in half. Compromise halfway, and I and we in the opposition, we commit to compromising halfway, and let's get this thing done at the earliest opportunity. After that, you will have the real serious business of bringing the crime down. So why are they hesitating? Why don't they want to take it for the 2 years? And let's see if they will take the 2.5 years. Why? Because they too know it's another distraction, it's another blame game, that it's not really going to do all of the work that they wanted to do. So my challenge tonight to the government, if you're serious that this bill, anti-gang bill, is going to solve the crime, take 2.5 years. We give you 2.5 years, and we will support you. We will support you. So, crime, that alone is not going to help. And we have shared many issues and ideas with them on the fight against crime. But they've shut down a lot of the things we had put into place. The community comfort patrols, they were very helpful, you know. That went, by the way. We had signed in with the UN resolution. I co-signed with President Obama and other nations at the United Nations, the UN resolution to deal with terrorism. To deal with terrorism. Opposition leader then, Keith Rowley, up and down this country and all over the world, lambasted me and my government for signing that resolution. You know, today, because we signed it, we co-signed, that is why they can have partnerships with others in the world. He will not admit that. And then he comes, and I like the words of Dr. I.A.N, not every Muslim is a terrorist, and not every terrorist is a Muslim. I agree totally with that comment. And I have to wonder, like others have wondered, whether this whole charade that played out over just prior to Carnival and over the Carnival period, whether it was just to distract your mind from all the wrongs in this country. And then they want to paint an enemy for you. You know, they say there's a technique. I used to teach this in university when I was a lecturer. One of the techniques of persuasion is to identify the enemy. Identify the enemy and spend your life knocking down that enemy left, right, and center. So they blame Kamala, blame the partnership, blame the opposition, not working. They're blaming the people who sell cloth. They blame everybody else. Shamfa blaming the businessmen in Tobago. They're blaming everybody else, but it's not working. So identify the enemy. And who is their new enemy? Who is their enemy? And we must never let them get away with that. We must never let them get away with targeting the Islamic Brotherhood in Trinidad and Tobago. We must never let that happen. Because we would have failed in our duty of upholding the rights of every citizen in this country. I do not support terrorism in any form. None of us here do. But our brethren will tell us. I have Imam Rashid who tells me all the time. They will tell us that their faith and their teachings in Islam are for peace and brotherhood. But as in everything else, there is good and there is not so good. There are those who will be extremists, and we must cut the extremists down. Those are the real terrorists. But not every person of Islamic faith is a terrorist, and not every terrorist is of the Islamic faith. Always remember that as we go about our business side by side. I've spoken to you of the anti-gang bill. I've spoken to you of honorary crime. There is one other issue before I, wow, looking at the time. One other issue I really want to spend some time on. Senator Saddam raised it earlier. It has to do with the whole issue of the property tax and the valuation of land bill. So just give me a moment to find my notes. They have told us in the Parliament that on Friday we will debate the property tax amendment bill and the valuation of land amendment bill. That's all well and good. They brought both bills to be passed by a simple majority, meaning only by their members. Simple majority. They do not need the votes of the opposition, so whether we speak or we don't speak, they will pass it without us. But I felt it very important before we go into that Parliament on Friday to share with you our concerns on that bill. You remember the last time they tried to introduce the property tax, we fought them and we stopped them. You remember I stood up and I took the piece of paper and I ripped it to pieces on the platform. I said, you don't have to put in this valuation form. Nonsense, they said, but they had to come back and apologize and tell the people, you do not have to fill that form. They tried to force people to submit those valuation forms. You remember all of that. They made up deadlines. Those deadlines were not allowed by the law, and we stopped them. They said you would have to pay money, a fine, if you did not submit that valuation form. We stopped them. The courts forced the government to tell the truth, and the government was forced to tell people that submission of the form was only if you wanted to do it. You didn't have to do it. Then, what it was is if there's law on our books, we must follow the law. After that, government said it was going to run an education program on property tax. Do you know anything about what the government is doing with this property tax? Does anyone know? Where is the education program? But they laid the bills a week or two ago and then told us on Friday coming, debate, but no education program, no information to anyone in this country about how that is going to work. So, they're coming again with the property tax on Friday. And again, like everything else that they do, they come like a thief in the night at the last moment and drop these things upon you. We will say a lot more in debate. Our MPs are prepared to speak. I want to deal with just one of the provisions, which I think is very frightening, and which I think you must be alerted to, and which you must raise your voices against. One of the most important steps in the property tax process is the valuation of your property. Agreed? Because the amount of tax you're going to pay is dependent on the value of your property. How much is your property worth? That is what will be used to tell you how much tax you have to pay them. Now, we've heard story after story from government as to how Minister Imbert is hiring a legion of property assessors. I understand they ran a quick program through UWI to train these assessors, and they are now ready to unleash Colin Imbert's legion on society. It seems these assessors will count your washrooms, your bathrooms. They will look at your roofing material, and they will tell you how much your property is worth. But by the way, that reminds me of another issue. And if we have time, we'll play the video on the ferry gate scandal, the whole ferry issue. But you know something? These people are really amazing. It's mind-boggling. They buy a boat, and these are ministers, totally against the law for ministers, so we'll deal with that in due course. They put a committee of ministers to buy a boat for this sea bridge. They buy, they say it's coming December, then it was coming February 9th. And then the minister says, well, you know what? It's Chinese New Year in China. He actually put that out. Huh? It is a Chinese New Year in China, so all business shut down. David, is that true? We have a Chinese MP here. Oh, Chinese New Year in China. So this boat cannot leave China because everything shut down. Okay, all right. Remember, it was supposed to reach here, he told us, February 9th. So by February 9th, no boat, no sign of anything. He says, Chinese, blame the Chinese New Year. This boat could not sail from China. Then on the social media, pictures of this boat started appearing. The boat has no roof. Yes? The chairs you've seen is like long time, you know, those of you used to go cinema. And you go in pit. You see, it's like the chairs in pit. Okay? And then now, we hear from again, Minister Imbert, Twitter, I think it was, he tweets again. Well, listen, the boat now has to stop in Cuba, so they could put a roof and they could put toilets, boy. So you buy a boat to transport people from Trinidad to Tobago and Tobago to Trinidad, lasting several hours, 4 or more hours, yes, Ramoda? How many hours? About 4? 4 or more, we still don't know. And you don't have toilets on the decks. You don't have a roof. And you bought this boat? 4 ministers of government. These people cannot be serious. They cannot be serious. That scandal is the biggest scandal to rock Trinidad and Tobago in this year. It is like you buy a house and the house has no roof. The house has no toilets. I mean, which madman or mad woman? It will only be the 4 ministers and Keith Rowley could be so crazy to buy a boat for $130 million. No roof. Pit seats and no pit stops. No pit stops whatsoever. No toilets. So I was on the property tax. And as I was saying, they will come to look at your washrooms and your bathrooms and how many toilets, how many windows and so on. And so, if you are not home, they want to punish you. Yes? If you don't pay, they want to take away your belongings, they will seize your home. If you have a problem now with the assessment that these persons will come and make on your property, the government in this bill is now saying they will establish a valuation tribunal to hear an appeal from you. Well, that sounds reasonable, does it? The assessors come and they value your house at X dollars and you say, no, that can't be, that's not right. I'm appealing the assessment made. So they say, okay, we're going to set up a valuation tribunal and you can appeal and say, no, that's wrong. I want this thing to be reconsidered. Now, this valuation tribunal in the bill is to replace the tax appeal board. Now, listen very carefully. Guess who are the members of the valuation tribunal in this bill? You know who are the persons in the tax appeal board? Tax appeal board has a person sitting on that board who have security of tenure, meaning their job is secure, who are chosen in a certain way, who are independent from the government, and they're given checks and balances similar to those of the higher judiciary. So guess what? The valuation tribunal, by whom are they to be selected in this bill? Take a guess. The one and only, the greatest actor in Trinidad and Tobago, who is acting again as of yesterday as the Prime Minister is jet-lagged again. He's gone. The Prime Minister has jetted out. The man has acted over 18 times. The Minister of Finance, Colum Imbert. He is going to be the one to hire members of this board, and he is the one who is going to fire. So, for example, Patsy, they come and value your little property, okay? Yes, they come. And Patsy says, no, this is wrong. I'm going to this valuation tribunal. But wait, is that Patsy Pussy lady? Yeah. But she's always in a UNC t-shirt. Do you understand where I'm going? When these persons are hired by Imbert and they do not do the bidding of Imbert, he fires them. He fires them. He can hire and he can fire. A very dangerous, dangerous process. So if you have a problem with your assessment, you go to this valuation tribunal. Whom are you going before? The friends of the Minister of Finance and of course his friends and family as well. I would like to call them, coin a word for these persons who will be on that valuation board. You know, you have a word like Martians. These will be I'm trying to get imptions. There will be imptions or imberticians like Imbert little fellows, little imps going out there to do his bidding. My friends, I'm making a joke out of it. It's a very serious, serious matter. There is something fundamentally wrong in this process. These persons will carry out what I would call judicial functions. When they're making an appeal, when they're assessing your appeal, they will act as a judge and jury with respect to the valuation of your property on which the tax that you will pay is based. What was there in the existing law is a board, tax appeal board, was more like a high court. They didn't get through with property tax case. Now they want to appoint these persons that Imbert will hire and fire to act like judges in your case. You will have to spend hard-earned dollars to hire lawyers to fight these people if your valuation is too high. And who can serve on this tribunal? Let's go there too. So first, the minister will hire and the minister can fire them. Even further, who are the persons who can serve according to the bill, speaking according to the bill they brought? An attorney of 10 years experience and 2 other persons who shall have wide knowledge and experience in the valuation of property. Attorney at law, okay, 10 years. But 2 other persons. You could pick up any 2 fly-by-night persons who say, I have knowledge. When we frame law and we say we want a board or we want a commission, we say the qualifications. We give the qualifications of the persons to be appointed. In every piece of law in this country, they want wide knowledge and experience of valuation of property. So, Mr. John Brown could come and say, or Ms. Leela Ramlal could come and say, 20 years I value in property, you know. Yes, here, I have an affidavit. I'm a great valuator. Put me on, please. Anybody says, yes, I know you very well. You used to work in the Diego Martin Northeast constituency as a campaign manager. That's very good. I'm going to put you. So it's very wide and totally dangerous again and will not fulfill the purpose. So no particular requirements for qualifications, just vague with respect to the 2 additional persons. Further, these persons are not independent. They will have no security of tenure. The old tax appeal board was selected by an independent body, by the Judicial and Legal Service Commission. They've replaced that now, as I say, for the picks, the handpicks of Imbert. So there was space between the government and the judicial activity when there was a tax appeal. Now there is no space. For example, as I told you, they can be removed by the whim and fancy of the minister. And you know, he sometimes gets very angry. So he just gets vexed and he says, pack your bags and go. Pack your bags and go. So that can happen. There's a lot of case law. I do not have the time tonight, but we will share it in the parliament and further down the road. But there's a lot of case law. In fact, there is a golden thread which runs throughout the jurisprudence of the entire Commonwealth. That when you have a body that has to adjudicate in a manner quasi-judicial or judicial, that body must be selected in an independent manner, must be given security of tenure, and must operate hands-free from the government, from the ruling party, and from the executive. There's an entire body of case law in our jurisprudence around the Commonwealth that tells that this must happen. In our own jurisdiction, we saw where they brought the Commissioner of Police order And we had to take them to court. They brought a commissioner of police order where it said the Minister of National Security will start the process, and the way in which the whole process to choose a commissioner of police should take place. And we told them in Parliament, members, you remember that? The MPs in Parliament said, look, this is unconstitutional. And the greatest non-constitutional lawyer in Trinidad and Tobago, A.G. Faris, he says, yes, this is right. So we took them to court, and the court struck it down. You cannot have ministers in the business. You cannot have ministers. And there is a good reason for that. There is a good reason that there must not be political interference, political intervention in dealing with the rights of people, the freedoms of people. In this case, we are talking about a deprivation of property, because the tax that you're going to pay, that's your property, that's your money. So they're going to deprive you of your money through this tax, and therefore they will be breaching the Constitution by having the executive, meaning the minister, hire and fire persons to assess you and to determine any appeal that you may make. I trust that you understand me on this issue. We will talk more on it, but I urge you to understand it is a very, very dangerous provision in that valuation of land bill. There are others, and we will share those, but I wanted to bring this to your attention, that once again, just as the government did with the selection of the Commissioner of Police Order to put in unconstitutional provisions and then try to pass it by a simple majority, in the same way they did with the Strategic Services Agency, they put in provisions and passed it with a simple majority breaching people's rights. In the same way with the FATCA, the same Minister of Finance. You remember how much they went all over the country blaming us for not passing it, when they had within that, again, this Minister of Finance, Imbert, putting himself in place of the BIR, the Board of Inland Revenue, removing the BIR from law and placing the minister as a key figure in the operations of what was to take place. Well, we argued strenuously, and we were able to succeed only because that bill required a special majority. They could not have passed it without our votes, and we insisted we would not pass it as long as Imbert's fingers were in the cookie jar. We would not pass it. In these two bills they brought, the property tax bill and the valuation of land bill, both of which are intertwined, they have brought them to be passed by simple majorities. So we must raise our voices, and especially on this tribunal, I warn them today, if they attempt to bulldoze this with their numbers in the parliament and pass it, that we will take it to court and have it struck out. The minister must not be the one. So as I close tonight, we've had a great meeting. I just want to tell you something that happened over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We had sent teams out to walk, and I understand the response, the UNC teams, the response was tremendous. Many of you are here tonight in response to those invitations. Can we thank you for coming out in your numbers tonight, and for those people who went about in those walkabouts. But something also, they asked me, the walkers on that day have asked me to bring to your attention and the attention of the national community. We are right now, at this point in time, in the electoral seat of Barataria, which is a local government seat for the regional corporation, Sama Laventil Regional Corporation, yes? And that seat has been declared vacant many, many, many moons ago. But the PNM is afraid to call this election. They're afraid. They're afraid. They have delayed in the calling of this by-election. And tonight, as we are here in Barataria, the local government seat, I ask you to join with me to call on the Prime Minister to practice democracy and call the local election here in Barataria. To call it forthwith. You cannot continue to rant and rave on platforms. You cannot continue to, I'll say, hashtag Me Too and all the women of this country. You cannot continue to blame the businessmen. You cannot continue to blame the unions. You cannot continue to blame everyone except yourself. You are the one to blame. You are in charge. Take charge. Call this Baratara by-election now. And we are ready. So whilst I've talked about the destruction of the economy, reserves down to the lowest in a decade. Did you know that? Our foreign reserves are down to the lowest in a decade, in 10 years. In 10 years. You know what that means? Our import cover, which we had left in September 2015, about 11 plus months, we are down. Dr. Tiwari, can you remind me how many months of import cover is it now with the lowering? Between 8 and 9. Between 8 and 9. We had left it at 11 months import cover. So with each month as we go, what that means is we keep losing these reserves because of the waste of money and their inability to have a proper plan and priority. We're going to keep losing those reserves, which places us in an exceedingly dangerous situation and very vulnerable to the IMF, which the Prime Minister says he will never go to. But because he has no plans, he has no policies, he has no priorities, that is where he may very well end up. But all is not lost, you know. At the start of this year, I said the storm clouds are gathering. And I said if the government did not rethink its plans and priorities, this Rowley-led government will take Trinidad and Tobago into a perfect storm. But I want to tell you tonight, all is not lost. There is hope. Our economy can be fixed. We can regain fiscal balance. We can stabilize public debt. We can stop the bleeding of our official reserves. We can bring our economy back onto a path of growth. But it will take a government with a will. It will take a government with a vision. It will take the government with the brain to make it work. The first critical step is to restore confidence and rebuild trust. This means that government must come up with a credible medium-term economic plan and communicate the milestones of that plan and act decisively in implementing the plan. They knew, you know, when Rowley came into government, they knew. The advisors in opposition, and thereafter Mr. Terence Farrell at the Economic Advisory Board gave them all the plans to diversify the economy and to grow the economy, but they did not carry out a single one of the proposals made by their own advisors. When you harden, you just harden. You will not listen to even your own advisors. And so they took no steps to restore confidence and trust. They presented to the communities, to the country, no credible medium-term plan. They did not communicate any plan, and up to today, 2.5 years later, they have not done anything. Remember when the Prime Minister came into office, and up to now, only like chicken licking all over the country, crying doom and gloom. Everything bad, we have no money, they thief out the money. But if we thief out all the money, how come you have spent over $110 billion? How come you spent it when you say you have no money, $110 billion, and you have nothing to show for it? I can show you, we can show you what we did with that money. Some have spoken tonight, the Aquatic Center, the Children's Hospital, the San Fernando Teaching Hospital, the El Dorado Nursing Academy. Yeah? The police stations all over, not just in UNC constituencies. The health centers, the UWI South Campus, I can go on and on and on. But I can show you where my government spent every black, red cent of money that was allocated. Can you do the same? $110 billion later, and you have nothing to show for it. You cannot even pay workers. You are firing workers. $110 billion. You have spent more than we spent in our first 2 years, and you have nothing to show for it. Nothing. And guess what? Why are you not telling the country that the price of the oil and the gas has gone up? Why are you hiding that from the country? Because it means you are getting more revenue in the coffers, but you're not telling people that. You're still crying and say, Kamala thief, who thief, and we have no money, the treasury is dry. Why don't you tell the country that you're receiving more oil and gas revenues and tell the country what you're doing with it? Tell the country that you drew down, you pulled out of the HSF. You pulled money out of the rainy day savings. What have you done with it? In all the years we were in office, never once did we touch the piggy bank. Never once did we touch that rainy day HSF. Never once. And I am told that the next plan by the greatest actor in Trinidad and Tobago, the Minister of Finance, is that they intend to go back into the HSF again. By the midterm review, they're going to draw down to use more money. So you're getting more money. You spent $110 billion. You're getting more money from the oil and gas. You're getting more money from the borrowings from all over the world and then drawing down on the HSF. What, please tell us, what on earth in Trinidad and Tobago are you spending that money on? That question is still to be answered. So I said, 1%. The 1%. 1%. And this man stands in the parliament. When asked, I think Dr. Tiwari asked the question, name 10 achievements. And this man talk about stopping waste and corruption and mismanagement. Huh? Ramona raised the issue, what about the $8 million lost from the THA for the airlines? Yeah? Where's that money? Audit running fraud squad, not a word. What about almost 100 million in fake oil? What about the ferry deal that the Prime Minister said is crooked? Not one person charged yet. Nothing. That fella really brass-faced and bold-faced. When he stands up to lie, I think he's the greatest liar in Trinidad and Tobago. Greatest liar in Trinidad and Tobago. And I could give you a list of all the lies. I have one in my head clear that I could tell you the fella lies so much. And I challenge him to try to sue me because I have justification. I have the evidence. The fella lies so much that in less than 5 minutes in the parliament, he lied 27 times. That is your Prime Minister. That is your Prime Minister. In less than 5 minutes, lied about 27 times. But all is not lost. I repeat, all is not lost. I tell you, the UNC is here. Do not fear Kamla, and the UNC is here with you. Do not fear. All is not lost. All is not lost. I was telling you how we can, deal with the economy. It also means, what, this government has such a wrong side way of doing things, that it believes that the more taxes they bring, they will have more revenue and they will grow the economy and develop the country. Well, nothing is further from the truth. Ask any great economist, and we have none in the government, by the way. Ask any great economist. Ask anybody who studies political economy, studies sustainable growth. I have one on my bench. I have one who can tell you about sustainable growth, diversification, and development. In fact, I have more than one. But today I'll speak of one, Dr. Tiwari. And so, we'll tell you very clearly, taxation is not the answer. Can never be the answer, because the more money you take out from any taxes from people's pockets, the less they can spend, the less they will spend, less businesses will grow, less development. It's just upside down economics. Upside down economics. So that is not generating revenue. Instead, it is having the opposite effect, increasing the cost of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago. And we urge government again, and I promise you, when we get back into office, we will remove some of those harsh taxes that this government has put into office. The government also cease and desist from secretly depreciating our dollar, the Trinidad and Tobago dollar. Small island states like ours require exchange rate stability, not uncertainty. It's a very misguided notion they have to believe by depreciating our TT dollar, that will somehow bring more US dollars. That is also upside down economics. The government must reorganize priorities and place greater emphasis on developing our human capital. Our greatest resource is our human resource. We call on government therefore, to rescind the cuts in education, reinvest in tertiary education, and retraining the existing workforce to upgrade to the digital age. In this regard, government is called upon again to open the South Campus of the UWI, complete it and make it into an integrated facility. And there we can do, in addition to the diplomas and the certificates, graduate and undergraduate degrees, we can also do specialist things to help us fight crime. Forensics, training and teaching of the protective services. There's a whole line now of courses of study that we can use to help fight crime in our country. Forensic accounting, forensic sciences, policing, criminology, policing vulnerable societies, criminal justice policy, cybercrime, criminology research, all these things that South Campus can be used for to expand and to grow that knowledge to help us fight the worst scourge of crime in our country. Our existing trade agreements, I heard the Minister of Trade in Parliament, when talking about diversification, boasting about a partial scope agreement with Panama. I'm looking for Rodney, he was here, so Rodney. Partial scope agreement with Panama. But first of all, the partnership, and all of us, we take parentage. We are the parents of that. Let's make that clear. But you know, we had done so many of these agreements with our Latin American, Central American neighbors. Very important, because with trade, more trade across the board, more dollars will come in. That's how you make money. You don't make money by taxing your citizens, to death. You don't get it that way. And they have not, since they came into office, they have not entered into any single new trade agreement. Minister of Trade, do your job. Do your job. I read the Hansard on the diversification motion, and I was appalled that a Minister of Trade of this country will come to say they are diversifying the economy, as Indar Singh told her, by talking about making chewing gum. Chewing gum, yeah? That's the level that they think upon. Thinking about chewing gum and a new brand of some kind of soft drink. That was her thing, talking about diversification. And in between, of course, blame Kamla, blame Kamla, blame Kamla. At the end of it, I think Dr. Tiwari answered her profusely, and MP Indar Singh as well dealt with her. Total waste of time. The only thing that minister is good at is giving great big bear hugs. That's all I can remember. So, Minister of Trade, you are not doing your job either. You may be saying, normally I don't speak like this, Normally I really don't go, to attack persons, but it is really totally out of scope, out of mind, where these totally incompetent people are running this country down into the depths and into the gutter, so that people are suffering as never before. Never before. I have been an MP for over 25 plus years, and I've never seen the level of suffering of constituents who come to see me and my other MPs who report. I've never seen that level of suffering, even though we were in opposition many times before, and in government, I have not seen that level of suffering. When you get levying on a state enterprise, yes. CPEP contractor had to levy to get their payment. So you're not paying people, you're firing people, and then you come boasting, well, okay, it's not lost jobs. They have a whole new formula as to how they have found jobs for people. I call on the Prime Minister, again, I tell you, this fellow lies a lot. He is a, what is the word? There's a word. Pathological liar. Pathological. I was going to say a chronological liar too, because it's ongoing. Anyway, this man stands up and tells us, when someone asks a question, how many times have you traveled? Where did you travel, and so on? And then he got up, they said he traveled so many times. And how much the trips cost? I think that was the last question. His reply to that, well, they answered 2 million or whatever. How many, whatever trip. His reply was, okay, I went to Houston, and I got $10 billion in investment. Yeah? You hear lie? I call on the Prime Minister, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I want you to itemize the $10 billion investment you brought in. So this blanket statement, $10 billion, but not, well, 5 cents here, 1 billion there, dollar here, dollar where. No. $10 billion. Blanket statement. So you can't pin him down. So I call him in and we'll file the question, identify, demarcate, say where. It's the same thing when Munilal asked him a question about Sandals. The man came to Parliament and told us they had signed an agreement with Sanders. Up to now, no one has seen a copy of it. Well, that's bad enough. On top of that, you've never seen a photograph. Normally, when the government signs a memorandum of understanding with anyone, you have a picture, man. People like pictures. They say if a tree falls in the forest, you don't know it fell. It's the same, you need a photograph to say it happened, I saw it, look, here's a picture. Not a picture. And when the question was asked, they said, well, peace was signed in Trinidad, and a peace was signed elsewhere. We don't know where. Okay? And then for the peace sign here, peace sign there. And they have a confidentiality clause so that they cannot disclose. Yeah. That is accountability, the Keith Rowley order. This country engaging in matters that it has no idea of what the details are. None whatsoever. So friends, I do know there are other issues we can raise tonight. My greatest thrust forward, which I will keep repeating, is we must prepare our country, and we must begin now to go into the fourth industrial revolution. It is the only way that we can diversify. It is the only way that we can raise revenue. It is the only way we can bring prosperity and jobs and improve the quality of life of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And you can't do that by taking away the laptops for the children, because first you have to train them in the digital age. You have to give them those laptops back. I promise you again, when we form the next government, we will give the students the laptops. We'll give it to them. And there are many areas that we will continue to speak about. Tonight, I ask you not to lose hope. Tonight, I want us to use tonight as a call to arms for us to unite, for us to come together. United, we will win, we can win, and we shall win. And say with me, share with me. I had a dental procedure, so please forgive me if I'm a little on my chin here. I've done well, I'm almost done. I made it. Thanks to my doctor for the assistance. I think the government must come to terms with the reality on the ground. They are not on the ground. They are up in the air somewhere, out in space. The government and the Prime Minister is tone deaf to the reality. And not only is he tone deaf to the reality, he is also tone dumb. Because when he speaks, it doesn't resonate with anyone. When you listen to him, you end up being, but what is this? Say what? Really? You for real? It's not impressive. When you finish, and then you get angry because he's attacking everyone. He's attacking left, right, and center. I heard him on that same highway issue saying, well, look, Sandy Grande, you stood in the meeting and say you won this highway. Where are your voices now? Sandy Grande, why are you so quiet when other people fighting on the highway? Why are you so quiet? He buffing up the people in Sandy Grande too for his wrongdoings. Everywhere he goes. The time to stop this is now. We must put our hands together. We must band together and move Rowley and his government out of our faces and take back Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you. I'll see you next Monday night in St. Joseph. The venue.
Yo.
Yes, sir. Just to get DT on stage, please. DT on stage, please.
Yeah. Yo. All you UNC people and proud, I want you to put something in the air. If all you know the UNC and proud, put something in the air right now. You know what? Tell them we fed up. And them bag la we fed up. Them is some wolf in the sky. Fed up. And they play And so we not voting them again. We fed up, hope they understand. We fed up, PNM never had a plan. We fed up, how they use it. And so we voting for the UNC. The claim say they love we. The claim say they love we. The claim say, the claim say. We fed up, how them bugger, la la la, is fed up. Come in someone. Well, that's the name for them for the PNM. Yeah, and then hear why. I say, you know they don't have a clue what to do. But put taxes on me and you. Take back the food yard and the city car. Like we live in like Norgity. Why they moving so? I really don't know. PNM don't like people from the ghetto. But tell me why they. But tell them we fed up. Hands up in here. Tell them we fed up. Hot them back. La la la. We fed up. Come in some wolf in this guy. We fed up. Alright? The claim say they love we. I say the claim say they love we. The claim say, the claim say. Fed up. Hot them back. La la la. We fed up. Come in some wolf in this guy. Fed up. How they playing game. So we not voting them again. We fed up. Hope they understand. We fed up. PNM never had a plan. We fed up. How dare you? We voted for UNC. The claim say they love we. The claim say they love we. The claim say, the claim say. Well, you why? I say they don't have a clue what to do. But put taxes on me and take back the food yard and the seating hard. Like they want to live like dog in it. Why they moving so? I really don't know. People don't like the people from the ghetto. Tell me why they moving. Or tell them we fed up. Or them back. La la la, we fed up. Tell me someone in this guy. I fed up. Are they playing games? Or so we not voting them again. We fed